Hello everyone. Okay, so welcome sa ating subject, IE 111 or Engineering Economics. I think I have briefly introduced to you uh, different topics yung sa subject natin during our meeting, our first meeting, no? First virtual meeting. Okay, so let's start with chapter 1 of the subject, which is, chapter 1, introduction, no? So, introduction. So, we shall discuss some concepts, definitions, then sa engineering economy or economics. Okay. And some of the concepts ay wala dito sa video natin or presentation. So, basahin nyo na lang dun sa module ninyo. Anyway, nandun naman sa module yung mga detailed explanations and actually some examples of the different principles no sa engineering economics and what else are there. Medyo mahaba kasi yung discussions, but we are going to apply some of those concepts as we progress with our in our discussions no sa different topics. Okay, especially yung sa principles no. I think there are four principles sa engineering economy. Okay. So previously, this subject was, ang title nito noon ay Engineering Economy. Now sa curriculum ninyo, the title is now Engineering Economics. Okay, but most of the contents naman of the subjects are the same. Okay, so definitions and principles of engineering economics. So first, let's define economics. Okay, economics is one of the social sciences which consists of that body of knowledge dealing with people and their assets or resources. So take note, assets or resources. Economics has also been defined as the sum total of knowledge which treats of the creation and utilization of goods and services for the satisfaction of human wants. So we we're not going to discuss in detail about economics. There's a separate program for that, but we're going to discuss in this subject in our course or subject. We're going to discuss the some of the principles in economics which are applied in engineering. So kaya yun lang, pipili lang tayo ng mga topics or principles in economics na pwede nating gamitin sa engineering, no? Sa pagde-decide ng mga designs, because when we design or when we produce, create some products, of course, it involves cost, expenses. So we need to make sure, of course, na dapat um, uh, it's technically viable. Ibig sabihin, pwede yung design natin. And at the same time, financially or economically feasible din siya. Ano? Hindi yung gagastos tayo ng isang invention, mas marami pala yung gagastusin natin kaysa sa return ng ng invention natin or project. Okay? So, we have to analyze also or include in our considerations yung uh, economy or finances no sa mga projects natin later on. Okay? So according to Blank and Tarkin, engineering economy involves formulating, estimating, and evaluating the expected economic outcomes of alternatives designed to accomplish a defined purpose. Mathematical techniques simplify the economic evaluation of alternatives. So, later on, sa latter part ng ating subject, we will discuss comparison of alternatives. So, when we compare alternatives, no, alternatives. So, halimbawa, meron tayong choices, ano yung mas, yung between, for example, machines, they produce the same product, same yung kanilang product na ma-produce. Okay, so we have two machines, then we have to select. Paano natin isa-select yung best for us or for the company we are working for, no? So, yeah, so we compare alternatives. Of course, to do that, kailangan natin ng mga economic analysis methods, no? So, yun ang papag-aralan natin muna, yung mga basic principles dun sa engineering economics, okay? And then, yung mga different methods, and then later on, we use that to compare alternatives, okay? So, that's engineering economy according to Blank and Tarkin. Now, according to to Santa Maria, this actually, I think, si Hipolito yata ito. Hipolito Santa, local author uh, ng engineering economy book. So, engineering economy is the analysis and evaluation of the factors that will affect the economic success of engineering projects to the end that a recommendation can be made which will ensure the best use of capital. Ayan, that's another definition from Santa Maria. Although somewhat similar to the definition of Blank and Turkey. Evaluation, no? Evaluation, analysis and evaluation. So that's what we're going to do. No, so sa first few chapters ng ating subject, we're going to discuss yung mga analysis tools natin. And we use those tools to analyze yung economic success. Sabi ko Santa Maria, economic success of engineering projects. Okay? Ayan. So, importante malaman natin ang ganito. Especially, yung mga tools na ito later on are very important or very useful if you will be managers or involved kayo sa research and development and you will be conducting feasibility studies. Of course, ang consideration natin hindi lang dapat siya technically feasible, okay? Pag may mga investors tayo, meron tayong mga clients or investors, then we have to prove to them na financially feasible din yung ating projects, no? Siyempre, pag investor ka, siyempre ayaw malugi. Yung malugi, mag-invest ka, dapat may return later on. Okay? So, yan. So, yun ang i-discuss natin sa subject natin. We will discuss the principles, the tools, now which are needed later on for decision making in terms of finances, this very helpful ito later on sa decision making sa pag gawa ng mga projects. Okay? Ayan. What's next? Okay, so we'll actually before this topic, marami pa tayong mga topics, mga principles, mga fundamental concepts sa engineering economics. Please read those concepts and principles, although those principles will be used naman later on sa mga um, succeeding topics natin. But there are principles, the fundamental concepts sa economics. Please try to read na lang yung mga ibang concepts. Okay? Parang hindi masyadong humaba to. No? So let's proceed now to sa cost concepts for decision making. So cost concepts. Okay. Ano ba itong yung cost? Of course, if you are in a company and you are operating meron kayong mga projects, for example, construction company, no? May mga projects tayo. Siyempre, projects involves cost, no? So, we analyze, most of the time, we're going to analyze yung financial condition, yung mga finances ng isang company in terms of cost. Cost. So, later on, sa mga succeeding topics natin, we will be hindi mawala itong concept ng cost. So we're going to discuss now ano ba tong cost na ito. Okay? So many types of cost arise in economy studies of a new or existing enterprise. No? Pwedeng construction company or other companies, so any enterprise. No? Whenever any change in operations or policy is made. So while an engineer may be cognizant of the various types of costs, it appears that classifying the same and giving the implications of each will make them clearer. So may mga different types of costs, and it's important na alam natin i-classify, i-differentiate yung mga cost, types of cost na ito. Okay, first na classification ay yung first cost. Ano ba tong first cost? First cost includes all the initial expenses for starting any enterprise. Okay, in general, this will be the sum of the promotion and development cost. So, uh, first cost, tawag natin dyan ay yung capital ng na i-invest natin. So, yan yung first cost. Now, for example, magtatayo kayo ng business at yung business na yan kailangan ng building. Okay, yung first cost dyan, of course, yung paggawa ng building. Okay, yung gastos mo sa pagpapagawa ng plano, pagkuha ng permits, lahat ng professional fees, pagbili ng mga gamit doon sa building, okay? Lahat ng gastusin mo before mag-operate yung business mo, no? Before siya mag-operate, before siya mag-start mag-operate, okay? Ang tawag natin dyan ay first cost. Usually, yan yung capital na i-invest natin. Okay, yan yung unang-una nating gagastusin sa investment. Yan yung capital. That's the first cost. Okay? Okay, another type of cost is the fixed cost. So ano tong fixed cost? Fixed costs are those which remain relatively constant regardless of any change made in operations or policy. No? Thus, the rental of a property may remain unchanged even if the output of a factory changes a great deal. Okay? So, yung rental, sometimes, fixed na yan. No? So, regardless, kung halimbawa, nirentahan mo lang yung lupa na kung saan yung factory ay nakatayo, no? So, kung ano man yung output ng company ay nung factory, okay? Malaki man yung kita or mahina yung kita, konti lang yung kita, yung yung renta natin dun sa lupa is the same, no? Constant yon or that's fixed cost. All right? So, the depreciation of a piece of equipment remains constant, yung pag-depreciate ng value ng isang machine if you have one, no, sa loob ng company. So, it's constant regardless of the output, no. Fixed cost consists of such items as rental on buildings, depreciation, maintenance, taxes, insurance, interest on borrowed capital, and some administrative expenses. So these are examples of fixed costs. Yung hindi siya dependent dun sa output ng business natin. So these are talagang nandyan na. Kaya nga tinawag na fixed kasi we cannot it's not affected by the operations of the output of the enterprise or company. Okay? So fixed cost ang tawag natin diyan. Next type or classification ng cost is the variable cost. So variable costs are those which vary with output or any change in the activities of an enterprise. Okay? So it varies with the change of output. No, with the output, no. Pag nag-change yung output, may change din in terms of the cost. Ang tawag natin dyan ay variable cost. Okay? For example, the cost of materials used depends on the output. In general, all cost for direct materials like direct labor and other items which can be directly allocated to each unit produced are classified as variable costs. Okay? Example ng variable cost ay ito, yung lahat ng cost for direct materials. Siyempre kapag yung cost natin, pag bumili tayo ng, for example, sa construction company, okay, bumili ka the project needs a lot of or more bags of cement. That means you need affected din yung labor mo, ano? Kasi para makuha yung number of bags of cement, you need more labor, no? And ano ba? Direct labor, example, okay? And other items which can be directly allocated to each unit produced. Okay, ganun. That's an example of variable cost. So, these are costs na pag nag-increase yung material cost natin, affected din siya. So, that's variable cost. Variable cost. Ang tawag natin dun. Okay? Next, ano pa ba? Increment cost. Increment cost refers to any increase in cost. So the word increment meaning increase. Thus, if to produce 100 units will cost 200 pesos. For example, meron tayong 100 units of a certain item will cost us 200 pesos, no? 200 pesos para ma-produce yung 100 units, and the total cost for producing 110 units is 215 pesos. Then the increment cost for additional 10 units, di ba nga 100 units 200 pesos. Kapag 110 units, 215 pesos naman yung cost niya. So, sa nadagdag na 10 units na yon, ang increment cost natin is 15 pesos. Or that is 1.5 pesos per unit. Okay? So, ang tawag natin doon ay increment cost. Increment costs are important in problems where it will be determined whether a change in production will be profitable for the enterprise. Okay? So, change in production will be profitable for the enterprise. So parang may minimum dapat tayo uh, na minimit number of units, no? Tapos yung additional na units niya ay uh, meron na lamang increment cost, additional cost in terms of the production. Okay? Another is the differential cost. Somewhat similar din to sa increment cost. Differential cost has been defined by different authors in different senses. DeGarmo, an author, defines differential cost to be those costs which arise as the result of a change in operations or policy. Okay. While Thusen defines the term as the ratio of a small increment of a cost and a small increment of output. Okay. Thus, in the sense taken by DeGarmo, differential cost may also be considered as synonymous to increment cost. Okay. Another is marginal cost. Okay. Marginal cost is the additional cost of producing one or more unit of a product. So parang increment cost din siya. Okay. Thus, marginal cost may also be considered as increment cost for an additional unit. Okay. Ayan. Then, sunk cost. Ano tong sunk cost? Ayan. Yun pala. Sunk cost represents money which has been spent or capital which has been invested and which cannot be recovered due to certain reasons. So, hindi mo siya ma-recover. So, nagastos mo na, pero hindi mo na siya ma-recover. Ang tawag doon ay sunk cost. Sunk cost may also be defined as the unrecovered balance remaining if the net income received is less than the amount of capital invested. Sunk costs arise when the expected result of an investment does not materialize. Okay, that's why it's sunk. Thus, Sunk costs represent losses due to errors in past decisions. For example, may example dito. If a company purchases a machine for 10,000 pesos, but finds out later that it is not the proper type of machine that it needs, so hindi pala yun ang kailangan nilang machine, okay? And then disposes the same for 8,000. So binenta nila, so nabili, dahil hindi yun ang kailangan, binenta na nila. The same, so dispose, binenta nila for 8,000. Then the unrecovered capital is 2,000 pesos. Ano? So, binili mo ng 10,000, hindi pala gamitin, so binenta mo ng 8,000, so lugi ka ng 2,000 pesos. So, yung 2,000 pesos na yon, so unrecovered capital yon, so that is sunk cost. Okay. Tawag natin doon ay sunk cost. Okay? So, yan. Good business practice dictates that the loss be considered as such as soon as it is recognized. For usually, further delay in taking the loss will result in more losses. So, if those instances occur, then i-declare mo na lang na sunk cost, okay? And then, that's it. Ibenta mo na agad bago pa mag-depreciate yung value. Okay? So, para magamit mo yung pera, ano? Ayan. So, these are the different classifications of cost. Meron pang ibang mga types of cost. Maybe we can discuss those as we progress sa discussions natin sa different topics. Okay. Pero basically, ito yung ating um, types or classifications of cost. No? Ayan. So maybe we can have an example how to compute, differentiate yung mga ganitong classifications of cost. Let's try to solve this problem. The total cost of manufacturing 10,000 pieces and 12,000 pieces of a certain plastic product are 2,000 pesos and 2,280 pesos respectively. Determine the following: the average production cost per unit for 10,000 pieces. So magkano yung average production cost per unit, no? For the first 10,000 pieces, the variable cost per unit, okay, letter B, and letter C, the total fixed cost. Letter D, the average fixed cost per unit for the first 10,000 pieces, and the profit or loss if 1,000 units in excess of the first 10,000 pieces can be sold for 0.18 pesos each. Ayan, medyo marami-rami naman tayong dito required sa problem. Let's start with letter A, very simple. The average production cost per unit for the first 10,000. Average production. So kung yung 10,000 pieces, ang magastos ko doon ay magkano? 2,000 pesos. Magkano ang bayad ng isang unit? Simple, divide lang natin. So, 2,000 pesos divided by 10,000 pieces or units. So, ang cost per unit niya ay 0.2 pesos. So, murang-mura lang. Cost per unit. Ayan. Okay, that's for letter A. Okay. Next, letter B. And I think we have to, ano ba yung tinatanong sa B and C? The variable cost per unit and the total fixed cost. Ano yung fixed cost? Di ba, if you go back dun sa problem. Ayan. Okay, so yung 10,000, if you compare now, ano ba yun? Hindi ko lang yung mouse. Itong 10,000 pieces kasi na ito, ang presyo niya ay 2,000 pesos. Nung may dagdag na 2,000 pieces, so naging 12,000 pieces siya, 2,280. Okay, 2,280 siya. So, yung additional na 2,000 pesos, Parang ang cost na lang niya ay ito, no? Yung 280 na pesos. So ang hinahanap natin, so meron siyang tawag dito, variable cost, ano? At tapos yung total, yung fixed cost, no, yung fixed na cost natin. So ilan yung magkano yung ano variable cost per unit, tapos yung total fixed cost. Okay, let F total fixed cost regardless of output. Okay, kay 10,000 man yan, okay, so or ilan man yung produce natin, magkano kaya yung fixed cost natin? So let's say that is F, no? And let V, small letter V, variable cost per piece. So, variable cost per piece. Yung mga gastos ko kada piraso. Okay? Yung variable cost niya. So, may fixed cost tayo, meron din tayong variable cost. Okay? For 10,000 pieces, so, ang presyo niya ay 2,000 pesos. So, para ma-solve natin yung fixed cost, so yung fixed cost plus 10,000 times yung variable cost per unit yan or per piece. Okay? So, multiply natin. So, yung 2,000 na yan, nandiyan kasi yung fixed cost plus yung variable cost. Okay? So, syempre, yung 2,000 na yan, fixed cost plus yung variable cost per piece. Okay? Which is, since per piece yan, so, syempre, multiply natin and then 10,000 yan. I-multiply natin yung uh, V to 10,000 no? Para makuha natin yung presyo, yung variable cost, yung cost per piece. So pag pinag-add natin yan, magiging 2,000 pesos. No? That's for 10,000 pieces. Now for 12,000 pieces naman, ganun din, the same principle. Naging 2,280 pesos siya. Ang 2,280 pesos, siyempre, that's the sum of the fixed cost and the variable cost per piece. Total variable cost, no? So, fixed cost plus 12,000 times yung V natin. Of course, parehas lang sila dapat, ano? So, regardless of output, ito yung fixed cost natin. And then, magkano naman yung variable cost. So, that's how we solve letters B and C. Okay? So, we can solve the problem using your calculators. I know you know how to solve simultaneous equations using your calculator. So you can use your calculators, or you may use principles of algebra, solve it manually. Kung ano man gusto niyo mangyari. Okay. So simultaneously solve for the two equations. Solve the two equations. So the result would be the variable cost per unit is 0.14 pesos. Yan yung cost niya of producing per unit. Of course, plus yung fixed cost later on. And then yung fixed cost natin is 600. Okay? 600 pesos yung fixed cost natin. So regardless of how many units ang maproproduce mo, kailangan mo ng 600 pesos. So kung magpo-produce ka ng 1 unit, then variable cost natin is 0.14. Okay? 0.14 ang kailangan natin to produce 1. So 600 plus 0.14 to produce 1 unit. Okay? So, yan. So, total fixed, syempre, yan. Ayan na yun. Yan na pala yun. 600 pesos yung fixed cost natin. And then, so regardless of how many units ang ma-produce nyo, kailangan natin ng 600 pesos. At least, minimum 600 na pesos na fixed cost. Plus, of course, yung variable cost, depende na kung ilang units ang gusto nating i-produce. Alright? What else? Letter D, the average fixed cost per unit for the first 10,000 pieces. Okay. So, average fixed cost, ito kasi per unit na. Per unit siya, ano. So, what are we going to do? So, again, let F be F sub 10,000, F 10,000. Average fixed cost per unit for the first 10,000 pieces. Yung nauna kanina, regardless of output, yun yung fixed cost natin, no? Yung 600. Okay. Ito naman, we are solving for the fixed cost per unit for the first 10,000 pieces. So how do we do that? I-divide lang natin, since divide lang natin yung 600 pesos sa 10,000. So since regardless of output, no, ang fixed cost natin is um, 600 pesos. Then for the first 10,000, ang fixed cost natin per unit is, so 600 pesos divided by 10,000. So 0.06 per unit. 0.06 pesos per unit. That's the average fixed cost per unit. Okay? That's the average fixed cost. And then lastly, the profit or loss if 1,000 units in excess of the first 10,000 pieces can be sold for 0.18 pesos each. Okay? 0. Profit or loss. How do we know if it's profit or loss? Profit, syempre, kumita ka. Loss, pag nalugi ka. No? So, will it be profit or loss? No? The fixed cost will be charged to the first 10,000 units. Okay? So pag nag-exist tayo ng 1,000, so a profit will result because the selling price is 0.18 pesos exceeds the variable cost of 0.14 pesos per unit. Okay? So ang variable cost natin is 0.14. Okay. Yung para maintindihan natin, yung sa yung fixed cost, so wala na tayong ano, kasi excess sabi niya dito eh. So in excess of 1,000 dun sa 10,000, nag-excess ka, okay, ng 1,000 units. So yung fixed cost natin, na-charge na doon sa 10,000 pieces. Okay, na-charge na siya doon. Okay? Tapos ibebenta na natin yung excess ng 0.18 pesos. So, is it profit or loss? So, basically, profit siya, ano? Kasi nga, yung variable cost natin per unit, which was computed a while ago, is 0.14 pesos. Tapos, ibibenta ko siya ng 0.18. So, makikitain tayo. Kasi mas malaki yung selling price natin compared sa production cost natin per unit na 0.14. So, take note, nineglect na natin yung fixed cost kasi nga yung fixed cost na charge na doon sa may 10,000 pieces. Okay? So, sumobra lang talaga yung production. Okay, so the profit for 1,000 units in excess of 10,000 units is, we simply multiply, of course. Multiply lang natin. Yung 1,000 sa saan galing yung 0.04? 0.04 pesos. Saan galing yun? So, sinubtract lang natin yung 0.18 at yung 0.14. Diba? Selling price natin is 0.18 pesos. Tapos, ang cost per unit, yung gastos natin sa pag-produce ng per unit doon sa 1,000 na excess is 14 pesos. So, sinubtract lang natin yun para yung result is the profit na, profit. Okay? So, I hope natindihan natin kung saan galing yung 0.04 na yan. Sinubtract lang natin yung 0.18 and yung 0.14 na yan. Okay? Okay, so profit for 1,000 units in excess of 10,000 units is 40 pesos. So, yun ang kinita natin sa excess. Okay? Okay. Ano next? Oh, another example pa pala. Kala ko next topic. So a car owner estimates from available data that it cost him an average of 3,700 per month for a car insurance, taxes, and depreciation, and variable cost of 1.75 pesos per kilometer traveled. Okay. On the average, he travels about 2,000 kilometers each month. Determine the increment cost if he travels 2,300 kilometers during a certain month. Okay, okay. Yung ano yung increment cost natin. So on the average, he travels 2,000 kilometers per month. But sa isang month, kapag nag-travel siya ng 2,600, magkano yung increment cost? Okay, yan. Okay. The fixed monthly expense is of 3,700 pesos is independent of the distance the car is used. Okay. And it will be not affect the increment cost regardless of car usage. So, fix yan, yung 3,700. Okay, fix yan. So, the increment cost then is 2,300 minus 2,000. Di ba nga ang average cost, average travel kilometers niya is 2,000 kilometers. Pero may isang buwan na 2,300 yung travel niya. Okay. So the increment cost is simply, we subtract lang. So 2,300 minus 2,000. Of course, that is 300. Times 1.75. Okay. Yan yung variable cost natin na 1.75 per kilometer traveled. So per kilometer yan. Okay. Yan yung variable cost natin. So, the increment cost then, if he travels 2,300, additional cost niya. Okay. Okay. For traveling 2,300 is equivalent to 525 pesos. Ang additional na cost niya kapag nag-travel siya ng additional 300 kilometers. Wow. Mura naman. Anong ko yung sakyan niya? Okay, so that's increment cost. Okay? So yun. What's next? Okay. Our next topic is present economic studies, and I guess we'll have to have another video for this one. Another video for this topic.